Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'd like to share with you some reminders, inshallah. Reminders that I am grateful that I had the opportunity to research as I prepared to put this together. I'm going to speak about justice. Justice in Islam, which is a set of impeccable checks and balances set upon righteousness, mashallah. I will speak on the perfect wisdom sent by Allah through the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ to all of mankind. May we all live by his most perfect example, inshallah. Ameen. Myself was first attracted to Islam after reading the autobiography of Malcolm X, the life and struggles of a black man who led so many indigenous people to Islam. May Allah reward him for his work and struggle in establishing Islam in the hearts of so many, mashallah, even before many immigrant Muslims arrived in America. It was his vision which laid the foundation for many of the freedoms that we enjoy today as American Muslims. In fact, his involvement in the American Civil Rights Movement, like many other African Americans of the time, led to the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1965, which paved the way for many immigrant Muslims to be granted visas to enter America. So it is a privilege now to be able to read a portion of Brother Malcolm's letter from Mecca. Brother Malcolm, better known as Malik al-Shabazz, painted a beautiful picture, a picture which attracted me to learn more about Islam. Never have I witnessed such sincere hospitality and overwhelming spirit of true brotherhood as is practiced by people of all colors and races here in this ancient holy land, the home of Abraham, Muhammad, and all the other prophets of the Holy Scriptures. For the past week, I have been utterly speechless and spellbound by the graciousness I see displayed all around by people of all colors. I have been blessed to visit the holy city of Mecca. I have made 7 circuits around the Kaaba, led by a young mutawaf named Muhammad. I drank water from the well of Zamzam. I ran 7 times back and forth between the hills of Mount Safa and Marwa. I have prayed in the ancient city of Mina, and I have prayed on Mount Arafat. There were tens of thousands of pilgrims from all over the world. They were of all colors, from blue-eyed blondes to black-skinned Africans. But we were all participating in the same ritual, displaying a spirit of unity and brotherhood that my experiences in America had led me to believe never could exist between white and non-white. America needs to understand Islam, because this is the one religion that erases from its society the race problem. Throughout my travels in the Muslim world, I have met, talked to, and even eaten with people who in America would have been considered white. But the white attitude was removed from their minds by the religion of Islam. MashaAllah. I have never before seen sincere and true brotherhood practiced by all colors together, irrespective of their color. Subhanallah. This is what spoke to me. A religion that was accepting of all people. A religion where all people could feel a sense of belonging and where racism didn't exist. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ spoke to us in his last sermon. O people, your God is one, and your forefather Adam is one. An Arab is not better than a non-Arab, and a non-Arab is not better than an Arab, and a red person is not better than a black person, and a black person is not better than a red person, except in piety. Today, sadly, these teachings are not often practiced. As humans, we fall short of Islam's ideals. The American Muslim community is no better than our Arab, South Asian, or African counterparts. We too have let the ugliness of racism and discrimination creep into our communities. Both those who were born into Islam and recent converts have let this divide continue in our communities. We have got to do better. The Messenger of Allah ﷺ said, "Whosoever of you sees an evil, let him change it with his hand. And if he is not able to do so, then let him change it with his tongue. And if he is not able to do so, then hate it within his heart. And this is the weakest of faith. So I'm calling on each of you, yes, you. It is time that we practice this hadith wholeheartedly, for we are supposed to be ambassadors of Islam. Now let's look at the formal definition of an ambassador according to the Merriam-Webster dictionary. The highest ranking person who represents his or her own government while living in another country. What do we show the world around us? How do we, as Muslims, fulfill our positions as ambassadors to mankind? Sadly, I witness all too often a lack of empathy for issues. A lack of empathy for issues that are not dubbed Muslim issues, that is. Issues such as racism, homelessness, drug abuse, domestic violence, police brutality, poverty, and hunger. However, when one strives to adhere to the pure teachings of Islam, they realize that the issues I just mentioned are in fact issues of injustice. As Muslims, it is our duty to stand for justice. Justice for all people. The Quran teaches us, O you who believe, stand out firmly for justice as witnesses to Allah, even if against yourselves, or your parents, or your kin, and whether it be against rich or poor, for Allah can protect both. Follow not the lust of your hearts, lest you swerve, and if you distort justice, or decline to do justice, verily Allah is well acquainted with all that you do. Subhanallah, may Allah protect us. So let's acknowledge the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, his life, his legacy, and his lessons, and reflect. Let's reflect on the Prophet's teachings and the divinely inspired message he delivered, a message to all of mankind. We have not sent you but as a bearer of glad tidings, and as a warner to whole of mankind, but most people do not know. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was the greatest social reformer of all times, a true pioneer who established systems designed to preserve the human dignity of all people. He worked towards a just and balanced nation by establishing institutions such as Waqaf to provide support to all members of society. He understood that the strength of a nation depended on its humanity towards one another. Again, he understood that the strength of a nation depended on its humanity towards one another. What do I always say? Ubuntu. But what do we see in the world around us today? How far have we strayed from those teachings? The well-being of a society as a whole is fundamental to the teachings of Islam, with each individual being given equal rights and privileges. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, people are as equal as the teeth of a comb. People are as equal as the teeth of a comb. MashaAllah. Yet, within the Muslim community today, we find a lack of empathy and compassion for others. Although we have the greatest example of all time in the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, a man who stood for justice, a man we as Muslims should know and emulate in every possible way. Say, O Muhammad, if you love Allah, then follow me. Allah will love you. Obey Allah and the Messenger. Do we not seek Allah's love and mercy? What better way to earn His mercy than by following the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ in his deeds and actions? The Islamic civilization pioneered the implementation of social welfare. by establishing institutions to provide support to individuals in all levels of society. Muhammad ﷺ said, "The best people are those who are most useful to others." As Muslims, we should aspire to be leaders in social justice. It is not just that in 2014 we have those who are hungry among us. It is not just that in 2015 there are homeless among us. It is not just that basic human rights are now considered luxuries. Subhanallah. It is not just that people are discriminated against, or worse, killed based on the color of their skin, especially those who are murdered by those who are supposed to serve and protect them. Subhanallah. So believe it or not, recent atrocities such as the murders of Mike Brown, Eric Gardner, and Tamir Rice are Muslim issues. It has been said, if you are neutral on a situation of injustice, then you have chosen the side of the oppressor. My faith tells me that it is impossible as a Muslim to ignore these issues. The most poignant lesson the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ lived and breathed was that he diligently worked to change the world for the better, as he was sent as a mercy to mankind. Despite the hardships he endured, his message was one of hope. May we all be as hopeful. Ameen. The Prophet worked towards a just and balanced society, one which honored justice for the poor and needy. He taught that charity was a proof of faith. Charity is a proof of faith. He thought of others even before thinking of his own self, often giving away what little he had to someone who had less. Imagine, mashallah. He expanded the meaning of charity to encompass every kind act, to protect others from harm, to listen to grievances, even to remove the litter from the street. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Every act of goodness is charity." Where are we today? The Muslim Ummah, which should be champions of justice for all people. The legacy of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ brought timeless lessons, enabling us to rise to the call, if we only implemented them in our daily lives. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Charity is prescribed for each descendant of Adam every day the sun rises." He was then asked, "From what do we give charity every day?" The Prophet ﷺ answered, "The doors of goodness are many, enjoining good, forbidding evil, removing harm from the road, listening to the deaf, leading the blind, guiding one to the object of his need, hurrying with the strength of one's legs to one in sorrow who is asking for help, and supporting the feeble with the strength of one's arms. All of these are charity prescribed for you." We are taught that we should be a benefit to all people and worship God alone, and do not associate anyone with him in any way, and do good unto your parents, and near of kin, and unto orphans, and the needy, and the neighbor from among your own people, and the neighbor who is a stranger, and the friend by your side, and the wayfarer, and those whom you rightfully possess. Verily, God does not love any of those who are full of self-conceit or act in a boastful manner. We see here mentioned, and the neighbor from among your own people, and the neighbor who is a stranger. So why is it so hard for us to care for others, especially those who are not Muslim? When done with the right intention, I think the greater reward is in the latter. Not only do you fulfill a religious obligation of caring for others, an act of charity. Caring for a non-Muslim is also a form of dawah. In fact, one of the greatest forms of dawah is dawah in action. When we act upon the teachings of Islam, we show others the true face of Islam. Unfortunately, what do we see around us in the world today? We see serious human rights abuses in the world. Muhammad ﷺ witnessed similar injustices during his lifetime. Racism, female oppression, degradation of the poor, exploitation of the weak. However, Islam forbade these abuses. The Prophet ﷺ championed freedom, equality, and justice for everyone. The Prophet not only forbade, he fought against injustice in the world through his words, deeds, and actions. He was a living, breathing example of Islam, mashallah. He instructed us to assist any person who is oppressed, whether he is Muslim or not, which he demonstrated in a formal agreement with the Jews of Medina, where he promised full protection and equal rights. He was so just that the Medina Jews asked the Prophet ﷺ to deal with their grievances amongst themselves. Islamic civilization at the time was a testament of coexistence. It took pride in combining like-minded people of all races, faiths, and backgrounds to shape the success. Today we stand with others in a call for justice. Today we must stand with others in a call to justice. The Islamic principles of safeguarding human rights are just as vital today as they were during the time of the Prophet. All mankind is from Adam and Eve, said Muhammad, emphasizing the equality which should be shown between all people. All of humanity is the family of God, Muhammad declared, and the most beloved to God is the one who is most benefit to his children, regardless of belief and background. Everyone should be treated with equality, respect, and tolerance. Today, we must strive in the way of Allah and honor the teachings of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ as the last and final messenger. Islam is a religion of nature, understanding that we're each born with unique gifts and talents. As we differ in gender, status, and physical features, we also differ in our capabilities. Even economic inequality is a natural human state, the existence of which is a test where Allah tries people. The Holy Quran refers to this. He it is who has placed you as viceroys of the earth, and hath exalted some of you in rank above others, that he may try you by the best of that which he has giveth you. Whew. While Islam allows disparities in wealth, these differences should not be so great that we see, as we do today, severe disparities in economic and social justice. Listen here to the ayah again. Placed you as viceroys of the earth. Well, what does this mean? A viceroy, according to the dictionary, is a governor of a country or a province who rules as the representative of a king or sovereign. Well, who is more sovereign than Allah? We Muslims are to be viceroys of the earth, the entire world. Allah mentions, "We verily sent you, our messengers, with clear proofs, and revealed with them the scriptures and the balance, that mankind may observe right measure." Well, the scales of justice are not balanced today. The Prophet ﷺ said, "If anyone spent a night in a town and he remained hungry till morning, the promise of God's protection for that town came to an end. Subhanallah, something to reflect upon. God's protection for that town came to an end. Yet our neighbors are hungry. How can we expect protection? We see those from amongst the Muslims with great wealth. But where is our protection as Muslims when we are discriminated and fought against in the war on terror? The Prophet ﷺ said, "No one's faith amongst you is reliable until he likes for his brother what he likes for himself." Yet we see homeless among us. Is this wanting for others what we want for ourselves? No wonder the Ummah is in such a disarray. May Allah help us to do better. Ameen. If the distribution of justice within a community is unfair and unequitable, social peace in that community is always in jeopardy. You will see, as we are seeing today, great conflicts and turmoil. We see this today even upon American soil. Huge disparities in wealth which have led to racial inequality, oppression, and discrimination. Instead of being viceroys, many have become judgmental and discriminatory against those who we've been instructed to care for. I stand here hopeful. I am hopeful that the basic ideals which attracted me to Islam many years ago are still within the hearts of the believers, inshallah. Hopeful that the principles of Islam taught to us by the greatest social justice activist of all time, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, will reign supreme in solving the social disparities we see today throughout America. From the streets of Ferguson to Staten Island, New York, along the prison pipeline, fighting against institutionalized racism and social inequalities, we will see the Muslim community resume the position of champions of change, inshallah. That we too will become viceroys of the earth, to be witnesses for all of mankind as beacons of hope, inshallah. I challenge you all, please pick an issue, inshallah. Whether it's homelessness, hunger, social inequality, institutionalized racism, the prison industrial complex, whatever your issue may be the agents of change that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ taught us to be, inshallah. Whether you realize it or not, all of these issues and many others affect us each in some way, shape, or form. If you have the means to change an injustice, then it becomes obligatory upon you to do so, whether it's in deeds or actions. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, "Every one of you is a shepherd and is responsible for his flock. The leader of a people is a guardian and is responsible for his subjects. A man is the guardian of his family and is responsible for them. A woman is the guardian of her husband's home and his children, and she is responsible for them. Surely, every one of you is a shepherd and responsible for his flock." We see here that we each have a responsibility. We are all shepherds, and shepherds take good care of their flocks. Today our flocks may have changed, but the concept remains the same. See, what is really meant by being a shepherd? A shepherd is a leader. The Prophet ﷺ exemplified leadership in all areas of his life. And if we truly wish to follow his example, then we should all strive to be the same just and balanced leaders, inshallah. And remember, the true sign of a true leader, or the sign of a true leader, is one who leads others to lead. May Allah give us wisdom. May He give us the strength and the means to be just and balanced leaders within our own lives and the lives with whom we've been given a degree over. May our deeds and actions be a benefit to us in this life and the next. Ameen. I can't breathe.